morning, YouTube. Coming at you from down here in the corner. This is the cupboard where I keep, or I used to keep, a lot of my emergency food supplies. I want to talk to you about putting together an emergency food supply, and in particular, I want to talk to you about how not to put together an emergency food supply, and talk about 5 mistakes that I made so that you can learn from my fail and not make these same mistakes yourself. Just some background. About 4 or 5 years ago, I found out that I was living on top of something called the Cascadia subduction zone. So, when I learned that, I just kind of went into a panic and started just gathering up all kinds of emergency supplies. So, I got to be ready for this. This is going to be terrible. And I started up buying, I got to get rice and beans and pancake mix and oats and, just looking at all kinds of lists of the 5, foods you need for your whatever. I'm sure all of you out there have been looking at some of these videos. But what happened was earlier this year, when the this global pandemic started going around, I started looking at my food supplies, and the rice had gone rancid or stale. The oats were stale. Just so many things that I put away, the food had gone bad. And if we take a look here, get the 3 gallons of water out of the way. I have more than 3 gallons of water. I just keep this one in the house. So we pull out our emergency food supply. We've got a couple of containers in here. We find, a large bag of dried beans. Well, that's nice. I haven't a clue what to do with it. We got our stove. Move a few more things out of the way. Open up this bin in here. Come on, everybody out. There you go. Bag of sugar, which still sugar. It hasn't turned into a hard lump. I totally forgot this was here. Want to see what else? Another big bag of beans. Yeah. The thing about dry beans is you have to cook them, and you have to simmer them for a long time, and that takes fuel, and if fuel is in short supply, cooking dried beans is not something you're going to want to do. What else do I got in here? The other thing is peanut butter. Peanut butter is a pretty good thing to put away, actually. In the immediate aftermath, if you're not ready to do some emergency cooking, peanut butter and crackers will give you a little bit of a boost. I've got 3 jars of peanut butter in here, and to my credit, I've rotated them. Nothing in here is more than 2 years old. We can't say the same thing for anything else. So, putting it all back together again. Clearly, mistakes were made. I don't want you to make the same mistakes. So, some things to put back away here. By the way, I did think about cooking. I got one of these. That is a little camp stove that will run on both Coleman fuel and also unleaded gasoline. So let's look at a few lessons learned here. Number 1, don't panic. Don't run out and buy in a panic. There's a lot of you out there are starting to realize that our food supply and our society are a little bit more fragile than we believe that they were. And you're out there panic buying, and that's going to lead to food shortages, and it's just going to make the situation worse. And then you're going to grab stuff you don't need. You're going to end up with wasting food because you're not going to store it properly, and that's what I did, right? So slow down, take a deep breath, make a plan, do some research, okay? Figure out what you really need. Figure out what you really need to have. Figure out how much you need. Why did I buy 2 big giant bags of beans? I don't know. It just seemed to be about the right amount. Also, if you're going to get something, put it away for a while. Figure out how you're going to store it. Okay? Figure out the proper way to store it, whether that means vacuum packing it, taking it out of its retail containers and putting it into a better container, canning it, using conventional canning or dry canning techniques. But, vacuum packing with oxygen absorbers. You might want to look into doing that just for longevity of the food to keep it from going stale. And then start coming up with a plan. Start making a list. Okay, be organized in your preparations. Okay. Now, along those lines, also, instead of just going out and buying foods, I need a bunch of shelf-stable foods, rice, beans, oats. But what are you going to make with that food? Okay, think in terms of recipes, okay? Think in terms of meals that you're going to make, okay? Don't just think about, I need this kind of food. I mean, there's plenty of videos out there on YouTube saying, here's our 5 foods that you need to buy right now. Here's 10 foods that should be in your prepper pan. Forget it. Look at that and then say, what am I going to make with those foods? Okay? Look at how you cook on a day-to-day basis. And if you don't know how to cook, learn to cook. Okay? Uber Eats and Grubhub aren't going to get you out of this one. An easy way to figure out how to cook, see if you can dig up a bunch of campfire recipes. Look for an old Boy Scout or Girl Scout handbook that has recipes in it, campfire cooking recipes in it. There's a lot of them out there, okay? Because that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be basically cooking on a campfire. Okay, you might be cooking on a 2-burner Coleman stove, but still, it's not going to be gourmet cooking, okay? The other thing is, don't hoard. Don't look at your emergency supply as a hoard that you're going to access eventually sometime when you need it. Look at it as an extension of your pantry, okay? Look at the stuff you use on a day-to-day basis, okay? Put it in your pantry and then get more of the same thing and put that into your emergency food supply. And then rotate it through your pantry. And that solves your long-term storage problems. All right. Speaking of pantry, let's start some research by looking at our pantry. Well, the thing that I don't have, that I wish I had, was one of these big walk-in pantries. Instead, I've got various cupboards throughout the kitchen that are used to hold food, and this is the slide out that sits next to the refrigerator. And I'm looking in here because we've got a few things in here. Number one, this is where our canned goods are stored, and if we look at our canned goods, we discover that we have not dry beans, but cans of beans. We also have canned fruit, canned soup, more canned soup, crushed tomatoes. You mix this with Italian spices and you've made your own spaghetti sauce. Chili. See anything else in here? Yeah. More canned fruit. We've also got down here at the bottom, you can't see it's below the, I just dropped it. Let's get it here. It's below the camera there, but we also have the bottom whole shelf of this thing is energy bars, granola bars, and crackers. Yeah, up on top we've got some various sauces and dressings, but also, oh yeah, just in case you're wondering, yeah, tuna fish. We don't eat a lot of canned meat, so tuna fish is about it. Also got a few bags of pasta. The interesting thing about all this, and the reason why I brought you over here, is because I said, look at what's in your pantry, because this is what you're going to want to eat, okay? None of this was in my initial emergency food supply. None of it, okay? That was mistake number 2. Let's go look at some more cupboards. Alright, let's see if we can see what's inside this cupboard here. I said that your emergency food supply should be an extension of your cupboard, but, oh boy. If you're looking for an organized emergency food supply, don't emulate this cupboard, okay? And I'm showing you this because this is mistake number 3, because you need to organize your pantry. If you're not a normally organized person, which we aren't, I'll admit it, you better get organized. Among other things, here's some syrup, and up until yesterday, we didn't have the second bottle of syrup. There is, you can't see it, but there is tea, a box of tea bags back there. Tea over here, more tea here, and more tea back there. So I'm not the tea drinker in the family, so it doesn't bother me. Anyways, peanut butter, grits and grits twice. Not everything in here is food, but you can see the odd collection of jars. There's the hot cocoa mix, more hot cocoa mix, and hot cocoa mix in here. But you can see the odd collection of jars and containers that are being used to store stuff. And it's not a very efficient, not everything's a container. We've got some bags. Let's go look at the cupboard on the other side. Right, this is the cupboard on the other side. And if you look over here, you still see that we've got some of the odd collection of jars, some of them which we've had for years. Since when was the last time Skippy peanut butter shipped in a glass jar, right? So, time to clear a few things out. But a couple of things we did here is to organize a little bit. We got some of these 13 cup, you can't really see it, it's these 13 cup containers to store our flour and pizza dough mix. We make the pizza dough mix out of the flour by adding gluten to the white flour. So 13 cups, instead of trying to store it in smaller jars and containers, we have a considerably more amount there. This is a small jar of yeast. It just kind of fits anywhere. But see, the other thing we have is we got a bunch of these, which are 2 quart or otherwise half-gallon canning jars. And we're using that to store several of the dry goods that we use on a regular basis. So pancake mix, biscuit mix, rice in the back there. There's potato flakes, bulgur wheat, cornmeal, lentils, you get the idea. We get a lot more storage, a lot more from our storage space by using these jars. As you can see, they fit really nice next to each other. They fill the shelf from bottom to top, unlike over here where there's a lot of empty airspace. So we get a lot more food stored in a larger, in a smaller space. It still looks a little disorganized. This is generally, yeah. But we've got oats here. We got more oats up there. We've got 2 jars of pasta, and then we've got all of our long pasta, like spaghetti and linguine, are here because I don't have a container that will hold them yet. This box right here is all of our various packages of spice mix that we use to flavor our food. Remember I said to look at how people, well, no, I didn't say it. One of the things I suggested was look up campfire cookbooks, but also check out the Society for Creative Anachronism and other historical websites to see how people used to eat back in the Middle Ages, because when the grid goes down, you're back in a third world country, basically, and you need to know how people eat. And this bulgur is a wheat product that we've actually started to incorporate into some of the foods that we make. It's wheat. You put it in boiling water, cook it kind of like you do rice, except it doesn't take more than 10 minutes to get ready to eat. This, by the way, is not all of my food preparations. Remember I said your emergency food supply is part of an extension of your pantry? Well, let's go take a look out in the garage. So remember I said mistakes were made. This is the beginnings of our attempts to rectify those mistakes and put away a proper emergency food source. Remember I said make a plan? Well, I started doing what I just did with you. I looked in the cupboard and I looked at the things that we eat, and I looked at the kind of things that we know how to make and the recipes that we would likely to make. I started making a list. I made a list of dry goods, and I made a list of canned goods. And I've not even finished with the list, but I got to the point where I said I've got enough information that I can start working. I can go to work on this. So my wife is going shopping, and I said, look, will you pick up about 8 cans of soup and some chili? And I just said, grab a bunch of stuff for me, will you? And so she did. She went out and cream of mushroom soup. Don't think of this as soup. Think of this as mushroom gravy. You can pour it over rice. You can pour it over potatoes. You can put it over lentils. You can put it over a lot of things. You can even put it over pasta if you wanted to. Probably won't taste that good, but cream of potato soup, okay? Again, think of this as potato gravy, okay? You can put it over biscuits. You can put it over, well, it's potato soup. You can put it over potatoes, right? So, and you can split one can about 3 different ways. Now, there are other soups in here that we need to have, but that's a start, and we certainly need more than that. We've got barely half a case of soup, but like I said, we just only started 3 weeks ago, I think. So, a little bit at a time. Again, if you don't have a lot of money and you can't go spending $100 or more, because it can take several $100s to stock up an emergency pantry, but you don't want to just go running out whole hog, lining up an emergency pantry, because you're going to make mistakes and you're going to end up wasting food and throwing food away like I did. And I don't want to see you making that mistake again. I told my wife to keep her eyes out for something interesting, and so she came back with a can of cheddar cheese. I guess you can make mac and cheese with it. We also got some cans of got a case of Little Lynx. I don't know if you know about Loma Linda Foods, but unlike canned meat, these meat alternatives that you can buy at your local Adventist church, once you open them, they're not going to go bad if you don't use them right away. You can keep them unrefrigerated for a lot longer than you can keep meat unrefrigerated, and it won't go bad. So it's a little bit longer lasting, and it's something you should really consider putting into your emergency food pantry. And of course, we got cans of diced tomatoes, and then I went out and I bought pureed tomatoes. It's the big 24-ounce can. And again, because of the acidity of the tomatoes, they don't have to be refrigerated immediately upon opening. So even though it looks like, 24 ounces, what are you going to, that's a lot of spaghetti sauce. Well, yeah, but we're not going to be eating it all in one sitting. The other thing my wife brought in was a big 8-pack of pinto beans. Canned beans, not dry beans. Again, store what you eat, not what you, okay? You can store what you eat what you store. And over here, we got some familiar-looking jars because we had one jar of rice in the pantry. Well, there's 2 more right here in the garage, okay? And this one, if you look, it has a B on the lid. And this one has a C on the lid. I don't know if you can see that. The one in the pantry has an A on the lid. And that's how we rotate it and make sure that one jar doesn't stay out here for eternity while the other 2 keep switching place. When the A jar is done, you come grab the B jar. When the B jar is done, you grab the C jar. And before the B jar runs out, you make arrangements to refill the A jar and get it back out here. We also have biscuit mix, oats, 2 things of pancake mix. By the way, 1 5-pound bag of Krusteaz pancake mix exactly filled these 2 jars. Took a little thumping and settling to get them to all fit in there, but that's what you can do with that. There's also pasta. These particular pastas, I didn't have enough to fill a jar. But then I have a jar of small shells. You saw the bag of that I had in there. And then we have a ton of macaroni as well, because I've got the 2 smaller jars and now 1 big jar as well. These aren't labeled ABC because they're different shapes, and so which one you want to use next is all a matter of what you feel inclined to eat. And then we've got a couple of jars of this that, remember I said you mix the tomatoes with Italian seasoning, and you made yourself some spaghetti sauce. Now this is not the proper way to store them, just loose on the shelf here. I'm going to get the vacuum sealer out, and I'm going to vacuum seal those and get them so they'll last much longer. Here's another seasoning. You want to try to get away from salting your food. If you've got a heart condition, you say you've got hypertension, if you've got diabetes, if you've got high cholesterol, you really need to pay attention to those conditions because you may run out of medications, and the only thing that's going to save you is what is going to save you in any case, and that is learning to eat a little bit healthier if you can. It's very difficult to eat healthy in a SHTF situation, but anything you can do by, for instance, finding alternate seasonings for your food, by all means, if it helps, then yeah, and start using it on a daily basis to get used to it, okay? I want to show you what it costs. I went out to Grocery Outlet. Most of this stuff I got at Grocery Outlet. My wife made a shopping trip, then I went shopping. 2 bags of Allegra Rotini that were in the slide-out cupboard. They're not back here. 16-ounce bags at 89 cents a piece. Normally those things go for 98 on a good day, more like $1.10 to $1.20. Famous Amos cookies. Oh, well, I just bought that because no one was there to stop me. Italian seasonings, 2 at $1 each. A 5-pound bag of Krusty's pancake mix, $4.99. That's $1 a pound, and here they are right there. La Moderna elbow macaroni, 7.5-ounce bags, 9 at 3 for $1. And you saw I had plenty of. I bought 9. I meant to only buy 8, and then instead of buying 6 shells, I ended up only buying 5. But they're also 3 for $1. So that's what you're looking at is $1 right there. Quick Oats, they're over here, and then also in the cupboard. $2.29 for 2.5 pounds. 99 cents a can for the tomato puree. And the whole total comes, let's see, subtract off the Famous Amos cookies and one more item. And we're subtract $5. We're $22.62 for all that. So, you don't have to break the bank to buy a lot of expensive food. Just figure on 10 to 20 bucks a week, and you can slowly build up your food supply. I've still got an empty jar here and a few more empty jars that need to be filled, and I got plenty of space up here that needs to be filled. So yeah, I'm looking at doubling the number of jars here, getting a case of soup and a case of chili, and probably a case of beans as well. And that is what you call a good start. I've got more space under that corner cupboard where we first started this video. So anyways, guys, trying to put together an emergency food supply can be a daunting task. If you run out and try to do it in a panic without getting a list together, without getting a plan together, you're just going to waste food. Don't do it. So make a plan, make a list, figure out the recipes you're going to be cooking, not just the foods you want to stock. And then from there, move forward and start acquiring your pantry, okay? Well, first get your pantry in order. Then once your pantry's in order, then start expanding to your off-pantry emergency supply, which you will rotate through your pantry. And by rotating this stuff through the pantry, you take care of any long-term storage. You don't have to look at 30-year macaroni, okay? Everything in here should rotate through the pantry before its shelf life runs out. Anyways, people, you really need to be doing this. You need to be getting ready. You need to be getting your friends ready, okay? If you know somebody who would like to see this video, share it. If you like it, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up so that YouTube will help send it to other people. If you want to see more, there are definitely going to be, we're going to revisit this as we figure out some other things to add here. Like I said, this is just the basics, just the beginning. There's quite a few missing on it, quite a few things missing. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos. Thank you for watching, and don't get caught by surprise. Start getting ready.